string theory experiment series episode. A little bit of a tongue twister. So here we see that I'd ground up some black pepper and salt, and there's the Himalayan rock salt mixed with a little Dead Sea salt. I won't be using the black pepper in this, but you can. And then various stocks, some miso, then we got some green spring onions, a carrot, and some ginger. Now I'm going to begin by cutting up some of the ginger here, just to show that you don't really need to break it into separate small pieces right off the bat. I think you can kind of get a better grip and therefore easier cut just by kind of holding it in its entirety and just kind of cleaving off like you're whittling. And I'm cutting a little liberally here because this ginger's been sitting in the fridge for a while, so it's not the freshest, and it's a little difficult to get a good cut on that edge. And again, the portions that are cut off here will be placed on a plate, and then they can be put into compost. Obviously, we're thrown away, but composting is preferred, especially with using organic vegetables and fruits. It's nice to be able to put that out in your garden and be able to experience year by year the added fertilizing abilities, the various microbes that develop inside of different, obviously, plant species, different types of fruits and vegetables. I've had for a nice biodiversity, and I'm sure that having a wide variety can also help to ensure that with the vast variety of microbes and their different capabilities, that you can really kind of fully process all different forms of nutrient components into the soil. And here we have the carrot, and quickly just stripping off the outside. I don't bother with really rinsing it off because as far as any dirt stuck in the skin won't be utilized. That's a real quick process. Of course, the fatter end first, because then you get more of a grip on it. If you do the narrow end first, then it can kind of tend to slide out of your hand with any of the friction from stripping away the outer skin. Alright, then we'll be grating this down. I do enjoy grating it down, and having it kind of dissolve into the soup. But for this, because kind of everyone in the household doesn't like to eat that much spicy ginger particle containing food, I do slice it a little thick, almost making a ginger tea, as it were, imbuing the essence really into it. Make sure to get some nice, reasonably thin yet thick enough to kind of pick out. And these aren't cooked so long that they become tender enough to really just chew down. So if you catch one, it's rather spicy and very flavorful. Definitely maintaining the medicinal qualities and becoming a little more tender. Yet I don't always eat it. I might have a few pieces each time. It's mainly just to get that essence out, that flavor out, a nice spiciness and healthfulness into the food. And then again, using this as peeler on the carrot, and conveniently it does peel and make shreds that are of appropriate thickness and texture, that they cook up at about the time that the ginger releases its flavor into the miso soup. And they really just grate down to where I start seeing the carrot get pale. I don't bother going too deep, especially with a larger carrot, because I'm only making enough soup for a few servings. And then, of course, course, the rest of the carrot can just be munched on. Really just want the best of the best inside of the soup. So we'll use the chicken stock here, a full container of the stock. And this does have a lot of flavor in it. I need to kick it up a notch with some salt. And again, this is Himalayan salt mixed half and half with Dead Sea salt. It's a very high concentration of trace minerals. And again, some miso. This nice aged miso, much more flavorful than the non-aged, or the lighter aged. And you don't need a lot. Kind of all the ginger and the carrots, and we'll get that in there just as we begin to heat it up. And I do like to put it at about 3/4 temp, so the equivalent of medium-high. We'll lid that, and that'll sit for a good 10 minutes. That gives us some time to curate the spring onions. And can't forget about that. Put a little celery in this time. Give it a little bit more time than the spring onions, but not much. I want to make sure to maintain a little bit of that crispness, a little bit of the texture. Same thing with the spring onions, very delicate. And you'll notice at the end that the spring onions do seem to be rather softened. And each time it's kind of an experiment on my behalf. I'm trying to figure out when do I have to put the spring onions in to make sure that they maintain their good texture. And when the noodles are about half done, I threw these in, and they still ended up a little stringy. So I think just as the noodles are becoming soft enough to serve, I think about then is right. Definitely doesn't take very long for the spring onions to become perfect texture. And they're much my preferred onion. I enjoy the fact that they do have all the qualities of, regular onion, a little more mild, and then the greens. And oftentimes I'll separate out the bigger, meatier portions and fry those up, and then the greens I'll throw those in right near the end just to steam them. Give some nice vibrant color and flavor and variance. And there's quite a few here. I just figured I'd finish up the bag, and I don't think you can have too much for spring onions. Very nice flavor, very nice texture. Just all around a blessing to behold and to include in almost any dish. Aside from desserts, of course. And I'm going to cut these as thin as I can get. Not paper thin. Yeah, thin enough so they'll cook up right alongside the spring onions. It's just a little bit more time. Really just going for a length length that's suitable for getting in bite by bite. Too long and it's just not as manageable. Too short. Just can't really discover it in the meal as easily as if you can kind of pick out each piece. A diversity of flavors. It's nice having them all kind of meld together in some ways, yet in other ways it's nice to be able to pick out the individual ingredients and taste the individual ingredients on their own. And there we have it. The bone broth. I use this to cool the dish down. You'll notice a little later that I forgot to add it in. We'll get to that when the time's appropriate. And the ramen noodles. Here we go. I skipped a little bit ahead to when things were ready. When the carrot seemed to be appropriate texture. You could smell the miso in the air. There we go. Just tossing right in there the celery and the ramen. And then throwing the lid back on. And I'll cut to again. It only takes a moment for the ramen to soften. And you really just want to move that around a little bit. Open it up, spread it around. You don't want any undercooked noodles on the inside when they're overcooked noodles on the outside. Just really giving that celery some time to soften up a little bit. The ginger some time to diffuse its flavor. And really getting the noodles to that point of tenderness where it's right to throw the green onions in. And I lowered the heat down to a little under mid. And cut to again. And then we'll give that a shot. I could have waited another few moments. It's not the easiest getting this absolutely perfect because when noodles start to seem that they're getting tender, you don't want to overcook the noodles, but you don't also want to overcook the spring onions. And in this video, I'm going to show you how I cut up an avocado. We could slice around, twist. Oh, this one's got a little bit of bruising or spotting inside. Very little though. This is a very beautiful avocado. I'm just going to clean those out of there. And I'll give it a slice this way. Pull it off in fourths. And these are nice. Oh, you gotta be careful. They're slippery. I should have set the knife down before I pulled the nut out. Didn't cut through the skin. But these are nice serving sized. You could take an avocado half, slice it into quarters, and just leave that out, plate it up. It's nice to have some avocado with most any dish. And I'll slice it lengthwise and then some cross slicing. And some of these will just come right off the skin, real easy. This requires a little bit of coaxing, so I'm going to use the non-sharpened side of the knife. It's a little difficult to see. I haven't noticed that the camera's not aimed perfectly. I'm a little distracted since I almost cut myself earlier. Alright. Just real easy there. Not taking too much care. It should just come right out. Yeah, another reason for this is the the nice texture you get when you cube it slightly, especially on crackers. It's nice just being able to gather up a good amount of it. It doesn't oxidize quite as fast when it's in pieces. It's nice just being able to kind of quotient it off, and yet also have small enough proportions to be able to have a couple with each bite. And I'm going to put half an avocado in each bowl. And this was the initial thought. I would just add the soup into the bowls. That would be the first serving. A bit of healthy fats. I'll set that aside. Fingers of rinse and cut 2. And at this point, seems about right. So we'll take it off the heat. Give it a few stirs. I'll work the noodles around in there so it plates up more equally. Just couldn't help it. Just looks so pretty. Distracted by the avocado and the vibrant vegetables. I hadn't noticed that the broth level seems a little bit down. And then at a point, I realized. And then aha, the bone broth. So not to overcook this, I actually use the bone broth to cool it down to eating temperature. So it goes from boiling hot to perfect temperature for eating with about half a container of the bone broth. And since it's significantly more expensive than the regular stock, it's nice to be able to just do a bit of it for nutrition and for flavor. There we go, that's right. And I'd thrown in the avocado as well. I just figured why not. And it worked rather well, although the heat did cause a little bit of degradation to the avocado, letting it sit in the soup. It does kind of dissolve in. Just really adds a nice flavor to it. And obviously it wasn't cooked in because I added it as I added the bone broth to cool it off. And if there's any left over, the avocado does preserve very well in the soup, as I've discovered. After a few hours I was able to have seconds. This was rather hearty and filling, so I didn't need more than just one bowl at the time. Beautiful. And as with most of the dishes I prepare, it's difficult to just say when. We'd like to say thank you to those who'd watch our entire videos, and if you'd like to come back for more of our content, please also feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe, turn on the bell, and allow push notifications for prompt updates of our future uploads.